Okay, so there's one thing about Mortal Kombat games to this day that I have the utmost respect for. Good, bad, or indifferent, they will take a wild risk and try something insane in all of their games. Sometimes it works and other times it doesn't. However, I feel like one past attempt to try something new that they've made doesn't get appreciated in the way that it should. Alright, I've talked ad nauseum about how much I love the 3D era of Mortal Kombat. I honestly would have never went to college and got my degree if it wasn't for those games, but that's for a whole nother video. Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance had already refreshed my love for Mortal Kombat, but in 2004, MK Deception would unexpectedly hold my interest more than I could imagine. Now, before I get into this, I have to talk about the elephant in the room with the 3D era of Mortal Kombat games, and that is, a lot of people weren't necessarily the biggest fans of the gameplay, which is partially why these games get ignored the way they do. That on top of the fact that a lot of Mortal Kombat players, at least of the original trilogy, didn't like how much this didn't feel like Mortal Kombat. And this is kind of true. This goes back to them taking wild risks that most video game companies wouldn't take. You're not just gonna jump and do something radically different than what's expected of the franchise. But the 3D era of games was trying something new, not just because that was the Mortal Kombat thing to do of the time, but people also have to remember, this was a dark period of time for fighting games. If you had a favorite fighting game that you played, it was a very, very niche game. Like, it wasn't like it was a major video game at the time. To this day, there are still only a handful of major or really significant fighting games that exist. The obvious three are Street Fighter, Tekken, and Mortal Kombat, and then there are the others. But only the niche of niche players were still clinging to the genre like it was still 1996. The only real big games at the time being MK, Tekken, and arguably Soul Calibur. Street Fighter had all but disappeared around this time. So Mortal Kombat had to make some wild changes in general just to keep players hooked and reach a new audience. Adding a 3D landscape and multiple fighting styles per character freshened things up a lot. And it did bring in new fans. A lot of people actually liked the multiple fighting styles. And also to tighten things up for a more classic feel, the down 2 being an automatic pop-up like an old school uppercut and having multiple fatalities and, let's say, self-deletions gave Mortal Kombat Deception more of an old school MK feel than, say, Deadly Alliance did. But Deception also added 2 weird ass modes to the game as well. The first one being Puzzle Kombat, which is basically Mortal Kombat Tetris or Mortal Kombat Puzzle Fighter. It was okay, I guess, but I don't know many people that were clamoring for puzzle games in 2004. But the point of this video is about a little mode called Chess Kombat, which on its face sounds really dumb. But as the old saying goes, don't judge a book by its cover. My dad would often ask me to play chess with him when I was younger, so I was familiar with the game, but the idea of chess in Mortal Kombat was just ridiculous to me. The amount of thinking that goes into chess when I'm trying to just knock somebody off of a cliff is not something that I wanted. So when a buddy of mine asked me to play it, I was skeptical at first, but I gave it a try, and I'll never forget it. I lost the first time I played it, not really understanding how to play until I was almost empty of players and my leader had no protection. I was almost instantly hooked after that. So while it sounds like chess with Mortal Kombat, it's slightly different, and there is some strategy in using your pieces even though it is still essentially Mortal Kombat. Your grunt is your pawn. The leader and champion are your king and queen respectively. However, you have a shifter, which can change into any opponent they encounter, and a sorcerer, which casts spells on your opponent, which makes them highly important. Seriously, you had to protect your sorcerers at all costs. So you had to be very strategic in how you picked your roster for your teams as well. I can't stress to you how important this is. My mains in Mortal Kombat Deception were Sub-Zero, Scorpion, and Cobra. Yes, Cobra was a beast in MK Deception and I will die on that hill. My first time in Chess Kombat, not thinking, I picked Scorpion as my shifter. Guess what I couldn't do? I couldn't play with Scorpion. Every time I encountered a piece with Scorpion, I ended up switching to whoever I was fighting. He was just a useless choice. But as luck would have it, my Cobra game was crazy, so I almost came back with my leader and won with only him. I didn't, but I came close. This mode was insanely addicting once you jumped into it. Even against the computer, this game is still a lot of fun as long as you avoid playing on like easy or novice. The computer will make some brain dead decisions after a while in this mode. As an added bonus to this fever dream of a video game mode, I also neglected to mention that the puzzle boards were remakes of the classic Mortal Kombat arenas. And when you start actually fighting, you hear the old school soundtracks playing, including a remake of the old courtyard stage. Also, for those of you who sucked at fatalities and didn't really know how to perform them, remember this was a big complaint kinda to this day that some people just can't perform fatalities and don't know how to do them. This, by the way, is why NetherRealm charges you for easy fatalities. Chess Kombat would have you covered. When you finally beat the opponent's leader and you have the game won, remember the leader is essentially the king, you will automatically perform a fatality on him. Finish her!
Checkmate. Player 1 takes the leader.
Honestly, I love this mode, and I want it back. I'd almost give anything to replace Invasions mode in MK1 with this. I think the NetherRealm team is grossly underestimating just how much players would love a mode like this in the games now. It would be even more fun to play in modern times with online, and this is coming from someone who isn't the biggest fan of playing fighting games online for that matter. So, on the slightest chance that anyone in NetherRealm ever sees this video from Mortal Kombat 13 or 2, bring back Chess Kombat. Seriously, if we can't get Conquest mode, at least give us this. But I'm done. Like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and you all have a good one, and I'm out.